I frequently point out that conversations between girls and among women often tend to focus on the connection dimension. Conversations between boys and among men frequently focus on the status dimension, that is, relative hierarchy. I want to be very clear that I would never imply that this is an either-or thing. Women focus on connection, men focus on status, and neither is interested in the other. Connection and status are always in play in every conversation, in every relationship. We have to find just the right blend of how close or distant do we want to be, and how relatively one up or one down each of us is at any given moment, or how relatively equal can this conversation be. I like to think of this actually as two dimensions, two axes that are always in play at the same time. So if we think of the connection dimension as being a continuum between closeness and distance, perhaps that's a horizontal axis. There's also a vertical axis of equality and hierarchy. So let's say equality on the bottom, hierarchy on the top. So you can be anywhere on that grid. So you can have a relationship that's hierarchical and close, or hierarchical and distant. You can have a relationship that's equal and distant, or equal and close. So we tend to think of hierarchy as being distancing. But there are many cultures, Javanese and Indonesian are two cultures where I've cited people who have written about this. The kind of prototypical hierarchical relationship, we think of boss-employee as the typical hierarchical relationship, but in many cultures of the world, the typical hierarchical relationship would be grandparent-grandchild, parent-child. Well, if you think of it that way, the hierarchy is very close and very uniting. A Japanese student of mine did a study that began, the Japanese students feel united in hierarchy. So I think it's something that we really need to rethink so that we don't think that a statement about hierarchy is something negative. We're putting men down because we say they're interested in status. We're idealizing women or sentimentalizing them because we say they're focused on connection. We're all focused on relative status and relative connection. But women are often focused more on that are we close, are we distant dimension. Men are often focused more on the who's one up, who's one down dimension. But that in itself can be very, can create connection. You know, if you've ever seen a conversation among two people trying to one-up each other, they can have a very close connection in the way they participate in that. And girls and women can be quite competitive and hierarchical about connection. For example, who's closer to the popular girl, or in a family, who's closer to the parents, who's the favorite child. So you can be very competitive about connection, and you can be very cooperative about negotiating for status. But the thing I'd really like to emphasize is that connection and status are not either or. They're both in play at the same time in every conversation and in every relationship. And they're really in kind of ambiguous relationship to each other. So by the same way of speaking, you are creating some level of connection and some level of hierarchy. And that's my job in conversational analysis, to pick out what those ways are that we create that in ways of talking.